guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Let's race, people!
Yvonne, that was wonderful. Drivers, please prepare your cars for competition. We'll head upstairs to the voice of the Heart of the Champion Hot Rod Classics, Dylan Langell.
Appreciate it here this afternoon. More information on 2022 as it becomes available.
Eat your heart out, Kyle Busch.
Any hats?
Welcome into Tim's Corner Live, episode number 37. We are back for a Wednesday evening, and we're already having fun here before we come on air. Dylan Langell, Denver Matchett, Tim Terry. Boys, you had 2 weeks off. How was it?
Need more time. It's an animal house in my place. Stuff's falling
Okay.
for the show. We need more time off.
For the record, about 20 seconds before we hit air, what happened?
My cat Dewey knocked a broom over, which almost murdered 2 guinea pigs in the same room I'm in.
So how does a broom murder 2 guinea pigs at the same? The guinea pigs are a bigger size, right?
How big do you think guinea pigs are?
I mean, they're not small. They're like bigger than a hamster, right?
Sure. Anyways, it was a big scene here, so
okay,
we're fine. It was kind of like it's kind of like the start of a race when someone misses a shift and there's all kinds of bad stuff that happens. It was kind of like that, but we're all sorted out here.
There's a place I could go with that, but I think I'm going to leave it where it is. Denver, I know you've been busy with school. How's your last 2 weeks been?
Apparently not as exciting as guinea pigs dying and stuff like that. I wouldn't say it's been too much exciting, but we're back. It's been more than 2 weeks. I don't know if I've been on here since like September. So it's been a hot minute, but we're back and going to stir some shit up tonight.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun show. We're going to go back and take a look at Sydney from a couple of weeks ago. We've got the most popular driver. We're going to unveil the top 25 on that. We're going to do some bench racing at the end. We're going to talk a little bit of iRacing because coming up next week is the TCM 300. And Brandon Campbell is here to do social media. And Brandon, you ran last night in the season opener that we had for TCM. 50
Did he actually run?
Well, he ran. The car started. It didn't go very well.
It almost went a little too well for a little bit. The confidence is, sky high.
So for the record, let's recap because we had no broadcast. We will have the TCM 300 here on Bedane TV next week. But for the record, you won a heat race.
Yes.
We inverted 3, so you started on the pole.
Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, I didn't even know this invert thing existed. I have like 4 messages like, you're starting on the pole. We got an invert. And I was like, Tim probably said that when I wasn't listening.
No, I didn't say it. I just let it roll, but that's okay. Yeah, continue.
Well, yeah. So we roll out. I think we made, a lap and a half?
No, we were coming to 2 laps completed.
Okay, so already more than Dylan Langell, 10-4. And then Tim added something into the game that made my car spin out.
Yeah, we put oil slicks on the racetrack, sailboat fuel all over the track in turn 4.
You ever see like you know how they use like rum or spike strips and stuff? Well, Tim laid one of those down and it seemed to disappear after I drove over it.
Same thing Barry used on the Dash for Cash.
Yes, exact same situation.
Bob Goodwin wants to know if your transmission worked, but I mean, it worked. It got into 4th. It's just the throttle pedal, right?
Why do I even show up to this anymore?
I don't know. I mean, you had 2 weeks to try to build something, and then you all took it away last night.
I'm just hoping Colin doesn't show up, and then we're probably all right for the night.
Well, I'm sure he'll show up at some point because we're going to talk Sydney throughout the show. But before we get to our first guest, Brady Kramer, Stacey Clements are here tonight to chat Sydney. But before we do, and I'm going to see if Paul is on the ball tonight, we're going to talk most popular driver throughout the episode. Top 25 drivers are unveiled, and we're going to start by unveiling them in groups of 4. So we're going to start with this one here. So if you're around looking for the most popular driver, top 25, here's the first group. That's not the first group, Paul. No, that's not the first. There you go, right there. And that is B-roll. Okay, Paul, focus.
We need another week off.
We need another week off. There we go. Okay.
First try for those keeping score.
Yes, exactly. We are 1 for OBS and 0 for Paul. Advancing to round 2. Voting starts tomorrow, by the way. We'll get back on track here at some point. Familiar faces. So these 6 drivers know a thing or two about getting into the final round for the most popular driver award. Obviously, Megan Perrott, Austin Hiscock, Randy Miller, and Gary Elliott are all former champions of the most popular driver award heading into its 10th year. Ashton Tucker and Sarah Thorne, I think, have 6 last round appearances in between them. So they will be on the round number 2 ballot. The top 10 move into round 3. Voting begins tomorrow. We will unveil some more names throughout the evening here on Tim's Corner Live. But now let's get down to business. Let's talk a little Sydney, and let's talk the Saf-way Auto Parts and Robby's Towing 100 with the winner of that event a couple of weeks ago. And that was Brady Kramer, driver of the number 10 from Miramichi, New Brunswick, and put on a pretty good show up there at the end of that one. Brady, welcome into Tim's Corner Live. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I guess let's talk about Sydney, because you had a pretty busy 2021 season, but let's start with Sydney, because that race, 14 cars, 15 cars, lots of action. You, Chris Reed, Laurie Cormier, going at it in the middle stages of that race and coming out on top. What did it mean to make that 7-hour haul and get to victory lane in Sydney?
Yeah, it was a goal, obviously. Like we were down a couple of years ago too, and we had a good run. Just was a little unfortunate, but no, it was a good run with those guys. Everybody raced really clean, and the day went pretty smooth. We had a few issues before the race and before actually during practice, so we dealt with those, and I felt like we had a good car. Just, you know what I mean, we didn't adjust on it a whole lot. We didn't really have a whole lot of time to with the issues we had. So I didn't really know what we had at the start of the race, but as a race, we were probably almost to the mid part. I felt like we were in pretty good position to hopefully be able to win, but finish on the podium anyway.
You mentioned the jam-packed day. It's a one-day show. Racing started at 12. We opened gates at 7. We have races where we have 2 and 3 day shows, and they're kind of strung out. And even those long days, you open pits at 10 or 11, you're racing at 6, and you don't get done until 10, 11 o'clock at night. With having some issues in practice, how did that change the mindset, knowing there was a quick turnaround before we went racing?
It wasn't as bad as what I thought it was going to be. When we ran into the problems, panic kind of set in for me. I lost the clutch in the car, so actually the clutch master cylinder went bad. So it was kind of a unique. It wasn't like we had a bad transmission or something. You just haul another one out of the trailer and go. It's something I didn't have, so we were still able to use the car, like run the car without the clutch pedal. We just started in 3rd gear and run our practices. And I got to thank Jerry Hayes. He had the clutch or the master cylinder at his house. So it was just, when no one had one at the track, the same one I had, and we're just fortunate enough to be able to get it fixed. And once we got it back in the car and it was working, I was praying to God the car it was going to be good, but I was more worried about getting it fixed, so we didn't have run into issues and features. But no, it was good.
We are live and interactive here this evening with Brady Kramer. Be sure to drop us a question or a comment. We'll get Brandon and Dylan on the case here this evening. I want to ask you about that race. So in the battle, we had 53 laps to the end, caution free, and we had kind of a clash of the Titans up in front. You've run well there before. We've had obviously Laurie Cormier win a couple. Chris Reed, it's his home racetrack. Andrew Lively came on at the end, obviously with no caution at the end, really didn't have time to make any ground up. But when you look at that race, 53 laps to the end, did you anticipate that race to go green to the end? Because we've had some races up there that have gone sideways too, and even the first couple laps were a little rough.
Yeah, no, I didn't. With the car count, I think we had 15 cars. So I really did think there was going to be, I thought maybe, the last 30 or last 25, maybe that, it would go green and a green flag stint. But it was, I didn't anticipate that.
So looking forward now, you've got that Sydney win, and backtrack a little bit, win at Riverside, running well at Scotia, had a win at Shediac. The whole season really came together. So let's step back and look at the season as a whole. What will you take from this 2021 season?
Honestly, it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I mean, we had, lots of podiums, and the start of the year kind of threw me for a curveball. I guess we didn't start out very good. Our first couple of races were really not up to par for me, and we had to find a couple of issues with the car, which we did. Just after we got the bugs worked out at the start of the year, it kind of went smooth from there. We had a lot of second place finishes to Alex, and we ran Jerry's car some too, and there was a couple of races there where I felt like we could have won and we didn't, and we still finished well. But really, from August on, I felt like every time we showed up at the racetrack, we were going to be in contention. But it just all the start of the year threw me for a curveball. I really thought we were going to start off strong, which we didn't, but I'm glad we were able to get some wins, and I was really glad we were able to finish the year off strong in Sydney.
And you're one of those New Brunswick teams that has done a lot of traveling. Obviously, Sydney, you came to Scotia Speed World earlier in the season for the AJK 50, ran really well there. The flat track program runs really well. You run with Jerry up at Riverside International Speedway. But I kind of want to transition from Sydney to Scotia and that flat track program. What makes your 10 car so good on these flat tracks compared to the Petty Raceway and the Riverside and the other racetracks that are around here?
It's nothing really special. Just whatever it is with this chassis and this car, we can run pretty much the same baseline anywhere we go, and it's pretty competitive right out the trailer usually. Halifax was no different. It's been a while since I've been there in a big car, and we really didn't know what to expect. The track was so green. We had a lot of rain that day, and didn't have a whole lot of practice. I mean, they did extend our practices for us, but really it could have went either way really that day. We were just kind of fortunate that it went really good. And I always found Sydney was more like, it's you don't need horsepower. You don't need, it's more of a driver's track. I find it's like Riverglade is what I used to like to run. So like I said, it's I don't find they're comparable, but they're both, you got to be able to get up on the wheel there too. So
social media is starting to kick up. I see Brandon's busy over there. Brandon, what do you have?
We got a couple things. You know what, Brady? Our good friend Brent's back in here, and he wants to know what the worst wreck you've ever had was.
Probably Shediac last year was pretty bad, I guess. Took a lot of, the poor car took quite a beating that day. But yeah, I would say probably Shediac. It was just a one-off race. We went there, and it wasn't a big car count. It wasn't, probably shouldn't have went really, but it was tore the car up pretty good.
Yeah, I think I remember that one. It was kind of in the middle of the summer, right?
You were there, yeah.
Yeah, I thought so. Alicia McKnight's here. I'm sure Ryan's watching with her. They were up in Sydney. They said they had an awesome time. It was fun. And Jordan Vino thinks that Stephanie should have spotted for you that weekend. I'm not sure what weekend, but one weekend.
Yeah, Jordan backed out of me last minute, so Adam King did it for me, so he did a great job. But maybe Stephanie next year, maybe we'll get her to throw the headset on. She can do it once or twice.
Have you ever let Brad throw the headset on, or do you think that's a bad idea?
Who?
Brad McLean.
No, Brad's man, a few words sometimes. He just stands back and takes it all in. But if I needed him to, I'm sure he would.
Yeah, for sure. Tim, unless I'm blind, I think that's all we have for now.
I think Brady had a couple of fans at the very top. Jordan Frazier's tuned in. I know she's tuned in for the most popular driver Unveil. Amber McDonald's tuned in. I guess she's a Brandon Campbell fan tonight. Is that what it is?
No, all of these comments are just making fun of me. I don't even know why I show up.
Okay, well, that's something that you have to take care of. Delaney Dean is excited for this. Cody Quinn is here as well. He loves Sydney. Every time you say Sydney, he's here. And Jason Pickle said, "Thanks for the lend of the piece of lead in Sydney, Brady." So I guess you lent the Zero car a little bit of love, lead wise. I think that's piece of lead.
Yeah. No, thanks for returning it. It was kind of a hectic after we were trying to get out of there, so. It was the last thing I looked for, so thanks for bringing it back.
it's been a weird season coming back from 2020, 21 with COVID and getting back to the racetrack. Obviously, Riverside International Speedway, you racing with Jerry Hayes. For those that don't know, how did that relationship come to be to have you in the 6 car?
I just was more random than anything. We were racing in, actually, we wrecked the car bad in Shediac last year. And then we wrecked it the weekend after in the international, I think it was international. And we were putting the car back together, and Jerry came down, and I've known Jerry a little bit, not really personally, but I mean, I've worked with Jeff Armstrong through Dean, and Jerry and Dean are pretty close, and I think he knew of me, and he just was looking to make a bit of a change, and for me, it's a no-brainer. You're not going to turn a chance to drive someone else's race car down, so I said we tried it out, and it didn't start off great. We had a few not as great a runs as we wanted to, but the plan, stuck to our plan, and finally got to Riverside and had some good runs with them. So looking to hopefully whatever becomes the next year for racing or tours or whatever it is going to be, hoping to put something together that we can run all over and be able to still run their car and run my car.
And I know Dylan is still with us. Dylan, there's no guinea pigs that have been murdered in the last 20 minutes or whatever.
They're fine. They're fine.
Okay. What do you have for Brady?
Well, I was going to ask about that relationship you built with Jerry there, Brady. And by that last race at Riverside, I mean, that number 6 was on rails. You were picture perfect that race. What did it take to get that number 6 into victory lane on the high banks?
It was, they have a good program there. They always have, even with Brad and Jerry himself. They always had good runs there with their stuff, and they have great equipment. And like I said, the first race there this year, we had a really good car, and we had some mechanical issues. And the second race, it was the same thing, just missed it a little bit, probably a little bit on my part, just trying to get comfortable with their car and at the track. I don't really have a lot of races at Riverside either, so it's to get it in my head wrapped around it and be able to be competitive is, it took a few trips there. So we're just, the last race there, the car was really good. And there's still more in it too. Like, it's could take a few more trips there, and it'll be even better again.
What are the big differences between your own 10 car and Jerry's number 6? I know cosmetically the front end looks different. It's a mean looking car. What are the big differences between that car and your own?
Not really much. I mean, there's chassis wise, like mine's a metric, 108 metric, and it's the car we run in Riverside's a big frame car. He also has his Johnson car, so the same motors, same rear end, same transmissions, all that stuff. But the bodies look a little different, but grand scheme of things, they're pretty much the same. He's got really good gear, and thankful I'm able to be able to wheel that stuff around.
When we were talking with Pete Miller a couple months ago before the AJK race, I asked him, you're going from a flat track to the high banks within 24 hours of each other. You were one of those drivers who pulled double duty at Scotia, then Riverside. What were the big differences? Obviously, driving completely different tracks, but like preparation, getting there. What differences go into going from a flat track to a high bank, the highest bank track in the Maritimes?
It's another race, another day. It's you can only what we're doing. You can't really prepare that much. I mean, they always bring a great car to the track, and they're always well prepared. So it's pretty simple for me. I just get in and get to drive it. My own stuff. It's obviously a lot more hectic for me to get to Halifax on Friday. We were battling weather, and we were battling just about everything possible, and that went smoother kind of than I thought it was gonna. And I mean, it could have went either way, like I said before. But when I showed up there on Saturday, Riverside, I knew what it was going to be. I mean, they got the program they got, and it's not a worry for me. It's more or less just get rested up and get ready for the day.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Brady, but that Saturday you got the win. Did you get any practice time in? I know you were a little held up at the border. I think Steve Matthews was telling me and Jerry that you were stuck in New Brunswick. There was a big backlog coming into Nova Scotia. Did you get any practice time before that win?
I got one practice in, or two practices. I can't remember. I missed the first practice. The first practice just ended when I got there. So it wasn't, I still got to get in the car and scuff a set of tires in and whatnot. But yeah, I did miss first practice that day.
There we go, Tim. The Riverside questions are done.
I kind of want to add to that, though, and you kind of mentioned about as a driver going from Riverside to Scotia or vice versa with the flat track and the high bank track. I want to kind of ask about the rules package. And I know it's kind of one of those things that we don't usually talk about around here because I get calls the next day after we talk about rules on the show, but we're going to talk about rules anyway. New Brunswick to Nova Scotia, there's still those little changes that prevent some of those teams from coming down, at least trying it. We obviously had 3. You come down for the AJK race. You don't have to change to go to Riverside because obviously you're driving a different car, but how long does it take you to get into the shop, change, and is there anything that you would like to see changed on that Sportsman rules package to kind of make that easier?
Really, in my mind, I mean, it's, to go to Riverside, it's kind of different to begin with. Like, to me, if I was to take my car from Friday night and say in Halifax and go to Riverside on Saturday, I'd have to change gears. I already run a 2-barrel carburetor. Some people in New Brunswick run a 4-barrel. In Nova Scotia, you got to run a 2-barrel. I always run a 2-barrel anyway, so that's not really a big effect. I mean, to go from one spot from one night, the Friday night to a Saturday to Riverside, it's, it might depend on front springs or, spring changes or whatnot. But as far as rule package, there's really not that much. The tire things, the durometer rules 52 in New Brunswick. It was 52 on the weekend in Sydney. So it was kind of, what I'm used to. But as far as there's not really anything holding anybody back from going venturing down. As far as rules, I don't find. As far as just a tire and the carburetor, my mind, most people have a 2-barrel and a 4-barrel, or access to one. So I mean, if somebody really wanted to go try Riverside, I mean, there shouldn't really be anything holding them back to do it, other than those few things I listed.
And I think Lori kind of said the same thing when we started off the season, that it's a night in the shop anyway. You're going to nut bolt your race car anyway, so you may as well go make those small changes, right?
Yeah, no, it's not a. I mean, if you're planning to go, I mean, it's a shame because I mean, I like to pride myself. We can go, one end of the province to the other, and we're one end of the Maritimes to the other, I guess, and be able to go to different racetracks. Might not always be on the podium or whatever, but we usually, this year we were lucky we were able to do that. But I like to be able to pride myself in being able to go all over the place, and I wish more people either had it in their budget or could do that, because it makes a big difference for racetracks and for advertising and whatnot. So it's I'd like to see. Be nice to see if more people could do that, but it's not always in the cards either.
Bigger fields and more cars at the racetrack always make our job a little bit easier too. Denver, what do you have for Brady? I know you've been off this show for a month and a half, so this is big. What do you got?
Definitely big. It's been a while, but Brady, first of all, congrats on a pretty solid season with lots of wins. First thing I want to ask you is I want to go back to Sydney a little bit. Talk about the facility and the changes that the new ownership have been making there. You were at the track when Greg Dow owned it a couple times, and now you got to see the changes that they're making. So tell the fans a little bit about what's happened at Sydney Speedway and what's still to come from what you've heard and saw.
They're trying really hard. I mean, they were kind of, I think Lyndon would say they were about a week behind from where they wanted to be for the race. So just 1 second. They weren't quite where they wanted to be, but from when I went down there in 2019, it was kind of a disaster in the pits, like as far as grass and water and whatnot. And they eliminated that completely, and that was a huge improvement. Their grandstands looked awesome. The property, as far as for fans wise, it looked awesome. PA system, just all little things that I noticed were big. And then for bringing your trailer and your truck and stuff in and having a nice clean spot to work and not stuck in the mud or the grass or being stuck trying to leave the racetrack. They're doing an awesome job. I can't wait to see the finished product, because it's going to be, I think they're trying to almost follow the route Wayne went with, just keep trying to improve. And, it's going to be a great spot to be able to hopefully visit a few times a year.
Absolutely. And you've had some good luck down there, and had a great performance there the last race. 2021 as a whole, we've talked about it a little bit, but you had that streak. I think you were second, I don't know how many races in a row. And it seemed like for some of them, it was to the same car that 74, you'd be there on the restart, just didn't have enough to get the monkey off your back and to get some wins coming on the end of the season. It must have felt real good.
Yeah, it did. It comes in cycles, I say. I mean, there's years where you have a hard time losing a race in a way, you know what I mean? It's just, they hit something this year and it made a big difference for them. And they're, congrats to Alex on a great year. It doesn't get much better than that for them. So it's, they deserve it. They work hard at it. She works hard at it. So we just come up short a few times, and it is what it is you can't fret on it. You just got to build off of it. And, we'll go back to the drawing board this winter and hopefully make some improvements to the car and hopefully we're on the other end of the battle there, I guess.
So 2022, any big goals, any big plans, anything on the bucket list that you want to scratch off in 2022?
Just more wins, more wins and bigger events, I guess. We finished second in Speed Weekend twice. The International was hitting me a lot of times. It's something that I really, 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 that's probably on the top of my bucket list as far as wanting to get for wins. It's something that we've been close and finished second in that once or twice. And Mike Stevens seems to get me every year as well. Like we've come close there too. So I'd like to win some of those bigger events in New Brunswick. I'd really like to get the IWK weekend, the official IWK weekend with Jerry and those guys, because they put a lot of work into it. And that's another one we're going to work hard at trying to be well prepared for. And just the bigger events. That's what I'm looking forward to.
You've dabbled in pro stock throughout your career, and it's been a couple years since we last seen you in a pro stock. Is that something you see yourself back in down the road?
Personally, like in my own gear, no. It's an expensive venture, and everybody sees how pro late model, super late model, whatever you want to call it. It's you got to have a big budget for something like that, and it's something that we tried it and I had a lot of fun with it. We ran competitive with it. It's nice when you can go out in your own shop at night and here and I can pick away at the car by myself and do my own scaling setup and whatever, and it's nice. That's nice thing with the Sportsman cars. You can do your own thing. I mean, pro stock you can too. There's guys that did it. Robby was one of them. They do an awesome job. But it's just, you got to have a crew and you got to have the dedication of more than just the guy that owns it or the guy that's driving it. It just takes a full team effort. And unless chance comes up that I can run someone else's car or a one-off race or whatever, I never would ever turn it down. But it's just not in the cards for me anymore. And I'm happy with where I'm at.
You're a second generation driver, I believe, and you get to keep carrying on the family tradition. What does that mean to you coming from a racing family?
It means a lot. If it wasn't for my dad, my uncles, my whole family, I guess. I mean, everyone's contributed to it, and they've always contributed to it pretty every year. My dad did it for years, and he gave it up for me. So, hopefully make those family members proud. And I know we do. I mean, he gets this year. He's been home a lot from work, so he's been able to work from home a little bit, and so he's been able to get to a lot more races, and that's always awesome to have him there, experience it instead of over the phone or watch a video or whatever it is. But it's wasn't for him or my family, I don't know where I'd be with it. So big thank you to my dad for sure for getting me involved in it, and it's very thankful.
Before I throw it back to Tim, one last little thing that I'm sure if I don't mention it will come up at some point tonight, but any stories about fire extinguishers to go around?
Sorry, Neil Crawford. Shit.
Yeah, and I don't think I gave that to Paul. I think we showed it earlier in the season. But for those that want to look at that, they can go back to Tim's Corner on Facebook. They can look at it there. But Denver kind of mentioned where I was going to go with Brent Patterson's question about how you got your start in racing. But obviously with the family lineage, it's there. But what was your first racing ride? How did you really get into the sport?
My dad, he just got me a go-kart when I think I was 4 or 5. I was really young, and we drove around my grandfather. I got pictures. We drove around my grandfather's driveway with some cones, and just did laps and laps, and we go down to the racetrack here in Miramichi and just practice and keep on practicing. And we did, I put on thousands of laps before I even got started. So, we started with the go-karts, and, we were racing Skidoo with Gerald Gaisley and those guys. And, it was, that's where it all got started, I guess. And just kind of went from there.
And you did dabble in legend cars as well, and how that scene has changed in the last couple of years. Because I know back in the day, it would have been you and guys like Justin McNeil were the young guns per se. And now you got, 14-year-old Gage Gilby lighting it up and what have you. And those kids that are coming up through the ranks, the Langels, Danny Chisholm, all those kids. But when you were racing and starting out in those legend cars, it was the older guys that were in there. It would have been the Cy Harveys and the Scott McLeans, and at the end, the Ian Mullins and the Darren Sherwoods and the Masters guys. What was it like competing with those guys and not having a whole lot of the young Lions and the younger semi-pros in the division?
Well, a big learning curve is what it was. I went from go-karts to that. And back then that was a big jump. You know what I mean? I was 12 or 13, and I was the person fibbing about my age to go race at Riverside or go race anywhere that you were allowed to race around here. I've got turned away. I was that young that I got turned away several times from Scotia and Riverside and places. So, I was kind of one of the first younger ones to really get involved with the Legends race. And Justin, and there was a few other guys there, but it seemed like after when I started to get into it, then you seen a few more. Like Dylan, I remember I was still racing legend cars. I kind of was done, and Dylan Blankhorn kind of was in one of his dad's cars a few times. And it was a big learning curve. And those kids now, it's insane how quick they can adapt to it from the bandos. And I was so young, I guess there was no bandos. So, it's crazy to watch it evolve the way it is now. There's going to be some kids coming to legend cars that are going to be great pro stock drivers or sportsman drivers or whatever they go with it. But they teach you a lot. It's car control. That's where I learned my car control and whatnot. So that's a great class, and I appreciate everything that everybody that helped me back when I used to do that, because we were, we didn't really know what we were doing, and we were just, went to the racetrack, put laps on pretty much. It was more of a learning curve for me than anything. We weren't really that competitive or never won a whole lot of races or anything, but got to travel to Ontario a couple times to race, and you get to experience different things. So that's the unique part of that class, is you can go from one end of the country to North America to the other and beyond, really, if you want to. So it's a great learning curve for people.
Yeah, really great class to be able to step out and do all those other things with it, and still is into 2022. And hopefully those borders stay open and those guys can go back to Winter Nationals and Asphalt Nats and all those races down south. I'm going to go back to Brandon on social in a bit. I see Richard Atkinson's watching, want to say hello to him, but the Austin Hiscock crew is tuned in. And they say, I know the schedule is usually packed in the Maritimes, but do you have any interest in making the haul over to Newfoundland at some point? Well, Jerry's been over there before. So has there been any talk? Has there been any inkling of going over to Eastbound?
There hasn't been. It's, before there was back, several years ago, I guess. But, it's, for me, it's a full-time thing. You could just get to Sydney, right? So it's I'd love to do it. I'd love to go race anywhere, but it's a big commitment. If there was definitely some help and some support there, it's something I would love to check off the bucket list. Places, racetracks, another racetrack. I would love to go race that. But I guess the future we'll have to see.
We'll have to talk to Mike and Patty and see if we can put something together eventually at some point, because I know they want some maritime racers over there, some mainland guys over there. So maybe it's another one of those things we can kind of poke Mike and Bob and Patty and the boys about. Richard Atkinson says, let Brady know I got the old plant out and waiting for something new.
Yeah, okay. No doubt he is.
Brandon, what else do you got on social? Because I know it's busy over there.
Yeah, social's a little busy. Mike Dusky's in here. He said the Sportsmen need to come. Isn't Mike Dusky from here?
Yeah, that's
PEI. Okay,
yeah, the other island. Yeah,
he added. So, would that be on the list, Brady, if they make a trip over to PEI?
Yeah, there might be some new things on the horizon next year for the Maritimes, hopefully. So, if it's on a schedule, will probably for sure be there.
And I just kind of wanted to add to what Tim said about how, and how you said about, you were the youngest guy in the legend car. And good buddy Kyle Bent was up in Sydney for the first time in a Sportsman a couple weeks ago. And I was talking to him. He goes, I didn't even know who Brady was. And he's been helping me all day long. So you're not to say you're a veteran, because I know you don't want to be in that category yet, but you've been around for a while. So what would you give for a tip to a guy like Kyle or some of the newer guys moving up?
He did a hell of a job, actually. We got parked beside them, him and James Graves. And he, first or second practice, and they're new at it, and I was watching for them, and I was we would lap after lap. We probably did 15 laps in the first run, and I really wasn't catching him a whole lot. And I said, holy God, like this, he's doing an awesome job just from jumping from dirt or whatever they ran before. I really didn't get to ask a whole lot of questions, but I think they're on dirt in Annapolis Valley, and yeah, he did an awesome job, and I said we were just anything they needed. They actually gave me a hand with a few things too, so I appreciate their help. And they're really great people, and hopefully see him racing around the Maritimes next year.
Yeah, I think he definitely enjoyed it, and just to have help from guys like you, and I think it's one of the Miller cars, right, Tim?
Yeah.
So to have guys like the Millers and you helping him out, it definitely set him off in the right step. Tim, another good Newfie buddy in here. Janet Healy's watching from Newfoundland. Yep. So hopefully she'll get to watch Brady race over there one day. And I thought I saw Glenn Knott popped in here at one point.
Yes, Glenn Knott is watching us as well. Yeah, he gets around.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing there, but I mean, maybe we'll have to take a Sportsman car to BC one day too.
Maybe we will have to get one out there. We'll make last call on social media now. So if you have any questions or comments for Brady, be sure to drop them below. And we haven't really talked a whole lot about Sydney because we haven't been on the air for 2 weeks. But Dylan, I know you've watched Kyle Bent grow up. For me, it was a throwback to see a red Sportsman car with a white 27 on it. So overall, Dylan, I know you watched that Sportsman race. What were your takes from it besides our guest here going to victory lane?
I thought it was a tremendous race. And, there was the beginning with the 98 and the kind of black flag drama around that and a couple of wrecks early on the get-go. But then once we got going, there was quite a pace. And Brady, there was even at one point, I thought there was going to be a giant pileup on the front straightaway. You made an incredible save early on. And then by the end, and just to add on to Kyle. So Kyle races dirt in Nova Scotia, Brady. He drives like an old street stock right now. And he drove a 4-cylinder beforehand. He only had like 3 or 4 races in the street stock before that Sportsman. And he did a really good job keeping that nose clean. And his whole family was pretty excited. But it was a really solid race. And I know, I think I read in the comments that Jordan Fraser wrote that Chris had some brake issues later on. But you too, Brady, you and Chris put on a great show for those fans. And how cool was it to see that place packed? That track has not been packed in years.
Yeah, we were, like I said, we had our issues in practice, and we were pretty tied up and with trying to everything to do with the car, I guess. And really the first time I got to run up and not run up, I was when we went on for the heat race. I got to check with the crowd, and I was amazed. From even we were there a couple of years ago, it wasn't a half bad crowd, but it was literally packed. Like it was, there was, I don't know what their capacity is, but it was great to see that they supported, Lyndon and Kyle, and hopefully they can continue that. They had, I think the fan experience wise for the races, I think they're giving away prizes and this and that, whatever. So, it was great atmosphere. It was great car count. It was fun racing with Chris and Lori and Dustin. And yeah, I thought for sure I was going in the infield.
I thought you were going into that wall, which Marcel LeBlanc, they didn't even hit it very hard, and it destroyed that right front of the car.
Yeah, no, it was just one of those racing deals. It's, I was not trying to give him as much room as I probably should have been, and he kind of popped up the track a little bit too. Dustin did a little bit and just got together. I'm real glad that it ended up the way it did, or it could have been bad for sure.
And that was just probably the perfect weather, perfect day for racing. It wasn't super cold, but it wasn't very hot. Did you notice with the cooler temperatures, did the cars act a little better? Were the tires better compared to, I remember one night at Scotia, Tim, with the Pro Stock Tour, it felt like it was 1 billion degrees at the racetrack. What did you think,
Yeah.
Brady?
No, I honestly, I thought the track had, I mean, maybe it doesn't make sense, but I mean, I thought the track had more grip than it did the last time I was there. The marbles and rocks, and it was hard because I had new gravel in the pits, so it was hard to run the top lane because there's really only a lane and a half to use. But we were able to run the top a little bit. But as far as everything working wise, it was kind of the same. But it's I found the track, I found it had pretty decent grip. It was a beautiful day. It was, wasn't too cold. Obviously wasn't too hot, but it was a good day for racing for sure.
And that surface too. I heard some drivers say it was a little bumpy. There was a little bit of dirty stuff at the top of the track. Did you find that in your Sportsman car?
Yeah, I mean, it was, it's every track is, a different characteristic. Petty used to have, the awkward exit off of 4 and the bump going into 1, and they kind of got the bump cleared up after, a few times of paving and tearing it up. So, in Sydney, I found, it's a little rough down the backstretch, but I just find it's character to the track. I don't, it's not something that I really have any complaints over. Everybody has the same playing field when you're driving over it. So you just kind of got to adapt and make your car work on it, or drive wise work on it. And the debris stuff on the top lane, it was hard because they had new gravel in the pits, and it was, they can only do so much for such a short period of time to get that place turned around. So I think they did a fantastic job. But yeah, no, it was a good day.
Tim, it was a very solid race to wrap up the racing season. I think that it put a good exclamation point on how 2021 went, I think.
I think it did too. Just a great race and a great day all around, and a great way to kind of launch into a new era in Sydney. But before we let you go, Brady, I kind of want to transition to home because you're from Miramichi. That racetrack, it's kind of saw a revival here in the last couple of seasons. Fans coming back through the COVID pandemic. The fans are coming back. Demo crowds are getting bigger. The bomber class has come back. Obviously, no Sportsman, no late models yet, but you've been known to dab in a demo or two. So do we ever see you come back in a demo car?
Possibly, maybe. It just depends. I really don't have too much time to we ran it this year. I think we ran 13 races between my car and Jerry's. So any time that we're not scheduled to actually race stock cars and around the Maritimes, it's, I got young daughter and family and stuff we got to spend time with too, right? So, well, it's fun. I mean, we made it to a few of them this year just to check it out. And Brad was racing. One night there was a demo, and it's good entertainment for sure. But it's you never know, I guess. So we'll see next year.
You mentioned the crew, the marketing partner, sponsor, and the busy schedule that you have. Who makes it happen for you, and who helps you get to the racetrack?
There's so many people to thank. I should have put it on a piece of paper so I could, name everybody off. Concept Drilling is a good friend of mine. He, they supported us all year last year, all year this year, helping us get to the racetrack, and can't thank Kyle enough. He's done a lot for me, and I'll always be thankful, and hopefully be able to continue that. Patterson Sales and Service, they've been on board with me for a long time, and can't thank Lori and Bobby and everyone there. They no matter what, they're always up to help. And Yield Ground Organics, another friend of mine, childhood friend, went to high school with. He jumped on board this year. He's a great friend of mine. Chad Underhill is River's Edge RV Park, and it's just up the road for me. Actually, it's a little spot on the river here, beautiful spot to go camping. So with those guys, Gary Mcdonald at Black River Welding, he's I met him through Brad, and he usually gets the most of the races and helps out, and he's been a big supporter and big help this year too. So I can't thank him enough. Shoot, I hope I'm not forgetting him. Mike Bernard's Construction, he's another friend of mine. He helped out this year too, and thank him a lot. Thank my parents and family, my crew. Brad, I guess Brad, does my tires pretty much every time we go to the racetrack. So he's a huge help too. It's a big process that, taken off my shoulders. I don't have to do it. So I appreciate everything that he does to help me, and did a lot for me last year when we were tore up a few times. So can't thank him enough. It's just a lot of people that make our program work, and real fortunate to have them.
This has been fun catching up, and busy 2021. I'm sure it's going to be busy in 2022 as well. Have a great offseason, Brady. Wish you all the best, and thanks for taking some time out for us here this evening.
Thanks. Really appreciate having me on.
That's Brady Kramer, driver of the number 10 late model Sportsman. And I'm going to throw some names at you, Denver. Let's go to round number 2 of the most popular driver advancees. Who do we have on the screen?
Well, Tim, we got Tanton Woolridge, driver of the number 0 Bandolero. He had a great season, as did Colton Noble in the Legends. Those are 2 big names there. Johnny Upshaw, number 12. Cullen O'Connor, Amber Eason, and Noah Healy. Some good representation from Newfoundland.
Yeah, there's some Newfoundland names that are on that screen right now. Cullen, obviously, Amber Eason, rookie drivers there. Johnny Upshaw's been around a couple of times. Colton Noble, moving up into the Legends this year. And, of course, Tanton Woolridge, Noah Healy there as well. So Bandos and Legend drivers, a part of round number 2 of the TCM Most Popular Driver Award. We've got, what does that leave? 13 more names that we need to unveil at some point here this season. Tim, you spelled McDonald wrong.
Come on, Tim.
Yeah. Is there a McDonald? There's no McDonald on
There's
there.
not even a McDonald on the list.
What is she looking at?
I don't know. I think Colin's rubbing off on her.
What are you guys talking about over there, by the way? I see you guys lighting up social.
I don't even really know. I saw Tom McQuarrie popped in, and then next thing you know, Colin, Jesse, and Amber are just spamming the chat. I don't even know what it's about. I can't read half of it.
By the way, Rob Bonus is there and says, thank you, Brady, for coming to Scotia Speed World and always supporting the shows at Shediac. So it's good to see Rob. There's another one. We talked about guests we want to get on during the winter. And that's one. Rob better be prepared, because I want to get Rob on the show here at one of these shows during the winter and shoot the breeze with us a little bit. So fair warning to Mr. Bonus. But we've changed some stuff around on the back. We'll get to more most popular driver names in a bit. Voting opens tomorrow sometime once we get the ballot all good to go. But we changed some cameras around, and now we have the voice of the Heart of a Champion Hot Rod Classics with us, Dylan Langell, on camera. There's nothing going on in the background so far, which is good. And the driver that is with us, driver number 72, Stacey Clements. Stacey, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You've had a great season coming back with this Heart of a Champion Hot Rod Classics. We're showing some highlights from your win at Sydney Speedway, but back in the seat after a few years. How does it feel to be not only back on the racetrack, but back in victory lane too?
It was quite surprising. We didn't know going in, and I think if we didn't have the success we had the first race at Riverside, it might have turned out different. But my confidence came back. I was getting faster, And when you have a fast car, it makes a big difference. Big difference.
Absolutely. We are live and interactive with Stacey here this evening. Be sure to drop us a question or a comment. We'll get to it on social media. And let's talk about that first race back at Riverside and going to victory lane in that one, coming back from the surgery that you had as well. It was a huge deal. It's Riverside. Anytime you win at Riverside is big, but how huge was it for you?
It was absolutely incredible. And we won some big races there in the Sportsman car. And back in the day, we used to run 150 laps in the Sportsman car, and you had to survive. And I mean, obviously, these are shorter races, but for the old guys, we kind of appreciate that, especially in the heat.
And with that brand new car, and the car looks phenomenal as well. Go track at Scotia. What does it mean to be a part of this Hot Rod Champion Series and seeing all these racetracks and being a part of this group?
Well, I was kind of with Patty through this whole inception. It started with him finding the 99 car, bringing it here. And I followed Patty through, tried to help him all I could. And I said, someday I would really like to do this vintage thing. And he had kicked the idea around, and God love me, made it happen. And obviously, I had to take a year for health reasons off, but we come back with a vengeance, and it worked out great. And Frank Frazier, we had so much fun. I just showed him pictures of what our vision was, and he nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. And, and it was so much fun hanging around his shop. Frank's a character, as everybody knows, and we just enjoyed it. Every time we come up, he'd have a different, what do you think? What do you think? And I'm like, Frank, you're blowing us away here. It's incredible. And he Curtis told me he really enjoyed building that car because he can build sportsman cars and pro stocks in his sleep. So for him to come out of his shell, and I called him one day and he said, "Oh, I gotta let you go. There's Junior Henley on the other line." So they were, chatting. And oh, by the way, I just want to show my vintage throwback Junior Henley shirt.
Nice.
If you see it. But no, it was incredible. And like I say, Frank really nailed it. And then Chris Ewing doing the vinyl to get it exactly, close as we could get it. It's a different car. It's, some people think it's modern until I show them a picture from the late 70s, and then they kind of get it, right?
Yeah, it's always great to see these vintage cars come out, and obviously yours looks pretty mean on the racetrack, and especially going side by side with Patty and Lori Hutt and these different looking race cars and the names that have come back in this series. And I know Ricky was really excited at the start of the season because he messaged me about it a couple of times, getting that car ready. How was it getting that car? Obviously you talked about Frank going back and forth, getting the car ready, but once you got it to the racetrack, how excited were you guys to unload it for the first time and get some laps in?
Well, within the first hour at Andy Ganesh, we had a message from, I believe it is Wingnut Productions. I forget his name. And Junior Henley sent him a message saying, "Excellent job, guys. You nailed it." And for us, that was just the icing on the cake. And for the car to be that fast, I mean, we have a really strange setup. It came out of Florida through Wayne Smith and Kevin Ingram. And they put it on Rusty's car. And Rusty was starting to get good towards the end of his season, but he just got moneyed out of the deal and he had to sell the car. And Ricky kept saying, "Let's build the chassis. Let's do this." I said, "No, let's get a car that's already together and put a body on it." And that's how it came to be.
I want to talk about the Sportsman and the Pro Stock days in a second, because that's before Dylan Langel's time. But Dylan, how cool is it to see Stacey back in a race car? Because I know as the Heart of a Champion Hot Rod Classics voice, you got to see the 72 car a couple times this year.
Yeah, and for me, only being in this racing business for 5-6 years, I'm learning so much and watching the video and learning about Junior Hanley and learning through other drivers and video. And Stacey, I know how much that first win meant to you. And before that race, I didn't really know that you had some heart issues before. So I knew that just made it even specialer, to put it in that sense there.
It was icing on the cake.
To get that checkered flag and to win in that style on the high banks. I mean, and it just proved that the performance and the work that you and Ricky and the whole crew put in that 72. What did it really, really mean?
It was like, and I said it in the winner's circle. I said a year ago, I would never have dreamed of, let alone being in a race car, actually winning. And Smurf, my wife, got on the radio and said, "Honey, I think you're going to win this." And I'm like, "There's no way I'm not." I was not stopping. That was my goal, just to get that one under the belt, get it off, the plate. And and thanks for, Russell. Russell came down. He put the final setup in the car and he said, "This is what it is. Leave it. Don't change it. Just change your stagger, maybe a little bar, but go to every track and just drive the wheels up." And that's what we did.
And every weekend you were out with the boys. I mean, that 72 was always in the front. I think there was only one race you didn't finish on the podium. And when you were racing, you were that good. And one race that sticks out to me, and it was one that you didn't win, was at 660 when Jocelyn Laliberte came from Quebec and you chased down that 61, and it was a 2 to 3 lap shootout with an open wheel modified. I mean, could you paint and write a better story than an open wheel modified and a Junior Hanley tribute car running for the win at 660?
Yeah, we kind of were sleeping at the wheel there. I figured the laps were closing down. I think there was Dingle and the Dodge ahead of us. I can't remember. And next thing, you just hear it go, and I'm like, "Oh God, I better go chase him," because he caught me off guard, and he was fast that day. And they work hard, and it was good to see them come down all at 9 hours each way. It was incredible, and to race with somebody you haven't raced with, like Patty and I can run. Well, I can run some side by side with all them guys, but the open wheel modifieds, you just got to watch them 16-inch tires. You hit them the wrong way, and you're airborne. So yeah, you really gotta watch yourself.
And Jocelyn's tires, yeah, they're about as wide as your car, basically. Those things were just massive.
I say that the Patty and those guys have an extra tire compared to, if you do the math, They got a lot of sneaker on those cars.
Of the races you competed, because you did miss the first one and then the one in Oyster Bed. Besides the win at Riverside and then the one in Sydney, hard to pick. What was your favorite race of the year?
I would have to say Riverside. It was the first, and yeah, and it's my favorite track. We've had good luck there, and yeah, we missed the very first one, and we missed PEI. And my goal for next year, we do good at PEI, we did in the past, and I'm hoping we're going to have a good car there.
I know Tim's going to dive into your sportsman career here in a moment, but with the Heart of a Champion, we had pro stock racers, legend racers, mini stocks of all walks. Who would you say was the toughest car to be on track with? Maybe just running side by side, because there was a lot of horsepower with some of these old vintage cars. And some of the cars, like you said, have been repurposed, we'll say, using an old pro stock chassis.
I mean, Tyler's, he's fast. Patty's fast. Laurie's really picked up the pace. The Dodge, I just love running with the Dodge. It's got so much horsepower. We actually give him a hand there to try to get it hooked up. I was behind him at Sydney, and he was pushing like a freight train. And I said, Jim, you got to loosen that car up. I could see he had the wheel cranked and then some. And, as a driver, sometimes it's hard to, relate to what's going on. I said, you need to loosen that car up. Anyway, he was coming at the end.
Tim, I'll throw it back to you. Let's revisit Stacey's career before he was doing vintage racing.
Yeah, let's go back. Stacey, I guess the easiest way to start this is, how did you get your start in racing?
Well, we started in Onslow Speedway in the early 80s. My nephew, Randy Jollymore, he's a pretty famous dude for a car builder and driver. And we put back then they called them Dukes, but it was a street stock. We had a 76 Monte Carlo. I ran part of the season and kind of got the bug, but we were young then and had to, go to work and get a career. And so it kind of just faded away. Randy really never stopped. He built some cars for other people and he drove himself. And then one day he was kind of out of it for a while, still doing work for John Fleming and Cy Harvey and, a lot of people, him and his dad and his brother. And one day he said, he calls me Uncle Pork. He said, Uncle Pork, they're going to build a racetrack just in Prospect, Moosehead Speedway. He said, we should build a car. And I said, well, sure. So I knew how to fabricate it, but I didn't know where to put the pipe. So he'd come up, we had a chassis on the jig, and he'd say, no, bend a roll bar. So we put the roll bar on. The next day, he would come and he'd put a piece of tape, masking tape from the bar down to the frame, put a pipe there. And that's how that car got built. And that was the Olin's car that was sponsored us, that we had all the success in. And I just found out it ended up in Sydney this weekend because Pete Miller sold it. And that is my old car. And Pete Miller won championships with that car. That car is hard to believe. That was built in '99 and is still on the track today. Mind you, I'm sure it's been reclipped and added on, but still, it was always a good car. And Pete ran it, well.
And it's got a young kid in it now that's going to do well in it. It's got James Graves in behind it too. So there's a little bit of lineage behind that going forward with that team. Good to see it in good hands. But what do you remember most about your sportsman days before heading up to that pro stock rank? Because you mentioned all kinds of success. I know you ran on the Sportsman tour for a little while. What do you take from those sportsman days?
Well, the first year, which would have been 2000, that Gary had the Snap-on series, we raced, I think, 43 races. We raced Moosehead Friday night, Scotia Saturday or Sunday, I can't remember, and then 6-race deal with Gary Snap-on tour, and that's where I met Garth Kramer and Brady. We've been buddies ever since. And he was only a young fellow, right? And we had incredible success. We had Mighty Muffler, wicked sponsor, and we ended up winning Moosehead and the tour and finished 3rd or 4th at Scotia in 1 year. So it was seat time for me, just seat time. We had some big races we won in 2001. And then it was kind of like Dan McKay put me in his car one day at Moosehead. He said, take this for a run. Well, that was a bad mistake on my part. Anyway, next thing we're pro stock racing.
So making that jump from sportsman to pro stock, how big was the jump back then? Because obviously both of those cars have changed just a little bit since then. What was the biggest jump from sportsman to pro stock that you remember?
Well, the pro stock has brakes and it turns. So actually, I found it way easier. We practiced the crap out of the car, and then our first race at Scotia, which I'm familiar with, and it got rained out. So my first race in the Pro Stock was Antigonish, and needless to say, I was a little nervous.
So what do you take from touring with the what was the CarQuest Pro Stock Tour? I know you did some past stuff when they came into town. What's your biggest takeaway from the Pro Stock days?
I was just, earning respect and racing, with, Mike McKenzie, John Fleming, Wayne Smith, just earning respect, trying to, not be in the way, be competitive when you can be. We didn't have a very big budget. We run off a lot of, people's old parts, spindles and stuff. We'd make a jig, cut them apart, re-weld them. We just didn't have the budget. And we had built motors back then. And this is my first time in a crate motor. And I think a crate motor would been more suited for me. I know when Rolly got the first crate motor and he won the championship, he said it was just so much easier to drive because it's one less thing, because the big motors, obviously you just couldn't push them to the floor like you can the crate motor. So it was quite a deal. I just wish we would have had a bigger budget and shoulda, coulda, woulda, but it is what it is. We had fun and earned respect, and it is what it is.
Sports changed a lot over the last 20, 30, 40 years that you've been involved in it as a driver and as a crew member. But you mentioned budgets and you mentioned crate motors, but any other big changes that stick out to you as something that's changed over the last couple of decades?
Well, the price of the cars, and I mean, the budget you have to have. I mean, we all see, these young guys, these young kids, I call them, they're incredible drivers and they have wicked budgets, and you need the top gear. And I think they need to roll it down a little bit. I hate going with the rule thing, but before a guy could leave a Sportsman car, buy a Pro Stock and be, up there. Right now you're lapped in 20 laps if you're not, up there. And I find it's kind of sad. I don't know where that's gonna go, but when you got to pay $100,000 for a car, our budget for the year might have been 20,000, and and a lot of those kids and drivers, they don't build their own stuff. They don't go buy used parts. They sell us used parts. So I don't know where it's going to go, but I mean, I enjoy watching them. They can dry the wheels off them, but you got to have some budget.
Now, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, your last Pro Stock start was at Petty a couple of years ago. You did a one-off with Wayne, didn't you?
Yeah, I did a one-off, and I think we rained out and ended up in Riverside. But I think even the pace car passed me. We just didn't have a good setup, and Wayne's been out of it for a while, and things were starting to go soft spring and big bar, and it was but it was good. It was kind of, I figured that was the last time I would ever be in a race car, and here we are.
And Wayne's got another Pro Stock, right?
Wayne does. He has another Pro Stock, and he's obviously, he goes to Florida. Him and Kevin built a Sportsman car last year and had some wicked success. And again, that's kind of where we got some of the setup from. And it's good to see those guys. We had Frank in the car at 660, and we have another guy coming up next year. Greg's going to jump into it for a few hot laps. So it's just so cool to strap them guys into a car. And, they were my heroes, right? I mean, it was Junior Hanley, Greg Stewart, Frank Frazier, Wayne Smith. They're all they're my heroes. So it's cool.
So racing with these guys, was there a moment this year where you pulled side by side with somebody and said, hey, that's kind of cool? And to that point, is there anybody that you'd kind of like to see in a vintage car full time and go wheel to wheel with them?
Well, I kind of like to see Cy come back. He's got two of them, and we never seen him all year. So I'd love to run with him. Patty and I, we just have a blast running side by side. And again, you got to watch them big tires. You got to be diligent. And I mean, Sydney, I had a hard time finding a groove, and you couldn't go super high on the track because there was a lot of rocks. We actually lost our good tires in practice on Friday, and we had to put our hockey pucks on, but they seemed to come around after a lot of laps. But you just couldn't go. I couldn't go as high as I'd like to. And once I get off the bottom and started, running a little higher up, it got a little faster.
Now, Cy said he hurt his shoulder, I think, doing harness racing, I think.
Yes, he's sick to that.
Yeah, that's the last thing that I heard. So hopefully he takes this winter, heals up, and gets back in one of those race cars. But want to ask you about Sydney. We're kind of going full circle here, but you were there in the 2000s, and we talked in Victory Lane, or you talked with Dylan in Victory Lane about the last time you were there, and getting on the podium, not necessarily going to Victory Lane like you planned to.
Yeah, we had a little mishap.
Yeah, so for those that weren't there, what happened?
Well, I think we started in mid-pack or something, and we got up. I think we passed, it might have been Gareth for the lead. I can't remember, but we got up and we led like 80 something laps, was caution. And I've never heard of a green, white checker. I just didn't hear of it. So green, I figured check. I let off. Next thing, cars are going by, and I don't know what happened. I didn't see the lights, so I clued in. Anyway, I got back up to second, but I think I went back first, fifth. It was quite embarrassing. I think Mark Martin did a 399 at Racetrack once, and yeah. So it was kind of, you know, winning was kind of, yeah, got it back.
Now from that, the 2000s, early 2000s to now, obviously there's been a lot that has changed, and Lyndon and Kyle are still doing work on the racetrack. But what was your impression of the first weekend there?
Oh, I was totally amazed. There was no pit stands Friday, and they worked like through midnight, 1 o'clock, and next thing was pit stands. You could tell that they were putting, you know, the passion into it. And I don't know if you understand how we got there. I was sitting at the computer one night and having a few cervezas. Anyway, I seen that they were having a soft launch race, and so I called my buddy Chris Reed, the mayor of Cape Breton, and I said, "Do you know the guy?" He said, "Yeah, you know him, Lyndon." I said, "Well, I kind of don't remember," but anyway, he called me the next day, and he said, "Yeah, we'd love to have you." He said, "You know, we're really trying to push this," and I said, "We'd love to go there," because I said it's always one of our favorite places, just the people and the atmosphere. And we had such a good time with the Sportsman car, and there's always a party afterwards at the Reed. So anyway, I got him in touch with Patty, and God love Patty, he put her into high gear, and next thing we're heading to Sydney.
And I was on the other end of that call because Lyndon came into the office at the time, and he said, "Do you know Stacey?" I said, "Yeah." And Kyle was in there, and Kyle had heard of the vintage cars, hadn't seen them yet this year. And he said, "So what are we talking about?" And I pulled up a picture of your car on my phone, and I said, here's what we're talking about. He said, "Oh yeah, call him. We want him here." So it's kind of neat how all that works. But I know social media is ablaze. Before we go to Denver, I know we want to get Brandon to work. Brandon, what do you got over there?
Well, first of all, to start, Amber is pissed that it's at Amber Easton, not McDonald. That's where this whole spelled it wrong thing came from.
I thought we already
yeah.
had the conversation of her driving a race car, and it didn't work very well.
I think her driving anything doesn't work well.
Okay.
But anyways, we talk about, you know, the vintage cars going to Sydney, how they've traveled. They went to 660 this year. Ed LeBlanc said he'd like to see them at Lake Dowsett next year. So one, Dylan, is that on the talks for next year?
I know we were chitty-chatting about it in the pits at Petty, and Stacey can attest to it too. We weren't supposed to go to Fredericton, and we weren't supposed to go to Sydney this year. So you never know what can happen, right, Stacey?
Yeah, we lost a Riverside race, which I would have loved to have too. But anyway, yeah, we ended up, and that's where we're at. You know, we don't want 16 races a year, but we'd like to be able to, you know, kind of diversify. And I would love to go to Lake Dowsett. I won a race there in a pro truck. Had my pro stock down there. It's the craziest track you've ever seen. It's a tri-oval on a hill, is all I can say. So I think we would do good down there. And if they have fans like they do in Sydney, we would be well received.
Tim, do they?
Absolutely. Dylan, I think you can attest to that too.
All they do. And really, I think aside from that, we just got to hit like Dowsett Motor Speedway, Speedway Miramichi, and Shediac, and we'll have all the maritime tracks covered.
My two worst tracks, Miramichi and Shediac. But hey, you know what? I accept the challenge. Brady you had asked them about Newfoundland. That would be pretty cool. I don't know if it would be possible, but that would be definitely a cool trip.
Like James, Patty, work on it. Bring us in.
Tim, make a few phone calls.
I apparently we got to get some more Sportsman cars over there, so I'll make that call to Mike James because he's going to be busy with us next week doing the TCM 300 stuff for iRacing. So we'll put it into his ear, Dylan, next week when we have him on the call. What else do you got, Brandon?
Travis Keefe, one of our mini stock drivers from Scotia, says it's glad to see you back behind the wheel, Stacey.
My buddy. Yep. Thank you, Travis.
I'm trying to scroll through all this Alicia, Amber, Jesse, Colin stuff. I'm getting to the bottom somewhere. Daniel Adio's in here. He says, "Hey, fellas." So another mini stock driver tuning in.
And by the way, we have
quite
a few cars coming up, new cars being built. There's a few hush-hush and secrets, but I've been getting a call looking for parts. So I know there's at least 6, maybe 7 cars. Hopefully we'll maybe get 3 more, 4 more next year. I know Stephen Curtis is he's coming with us, and a little more motor in that car, and he'll be quite competitive. So I think we're gonna have a good car count.
Before Brandon gets back in here, I know Richard Atkinson's watching, and he mentioned on social about the building rules. So for those that are thinking, hey, I want to go vintage racing, or I've got something that I want to build, it might be sitting in the backyard. Rules wise, what just give us a quick tip on what they can do and where they can find the rules.
There's really no rules, but if you go on the How to Champion site, it's more safety than anything. Greg obviously does an incredible job checking, fire extinguisher belts, seat mounts, stuff like that. We don't want people getting hurt, but as long as it's a pre-82 or pre-80 body style. Good thing is all these old pro stock chassis laying around, they're for sale. They're coming up constantly. Like, you can just grab the chassis, they come as a roller, put your engine of choice, throw your vintage body on, and go have fun.
So pretty simple, really. I mean, do whatever you want as long as you're safe, right? And as long as the body's old.
And we got some older cars coming, back in the 50s, and we have such a good mix of cars. I think it's only going to get better. There's at least 6 or 7 more that I know about, and there's some I'm sure I don't even know about. But I think we're going to have a really big class in the next couple of years, a good field.
Yeah, for sure. And Tim, it looks like tonight's mini stock night or something, because Colin actually said something important. He said, let me see if I can find it. He said he was pitting beside the 72 in Sydney, and what fine craftsmanship it is. The body looks amazing. So I think everybody likes to look at that car, honestly.
It's just so different. I mean, and when I show people the old picture, of Junior Hanley at New Smyrna, like I said, Frank just nailed it. I mean, it's an all steel body. Everybody thinks it's like a pro. It's not. It's all steel. There's the only thing fiberglass is the hood, and the nose is plastic. Other than that, everything else is steel as per rules. That's another rule. You can't have fiberglass bodies and plastic bodies, or stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see a good mix over the next couple of years.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I have friends in the States and Ontario that I've showed races, and they say, I don't know what the hell that is, but it's cool. We
actually got Oscar, I think it is. They have a vintage class in Ontario, and we got some messages from some of their drivers saying, awesome looking car. You should come up and race with us sometime. But we actually don't fit their rules. They have quite a rule package to keep them kind of on the same. And that's when you go from competitive racing to this gentleman's league, which we call it. If it's a gentleman's league, well, you don't need that stringent of rules. So I like it the way it is. I hope Patty keeps it that way, which I'm sure he will. I think we put on a decent show. We just definitely need some more cars, and I think it's going to excel. Like Sydney, when Patty Lawrence took his trophy and gave it to that child in the stands, the crowd went nuts. And he told me afterwards, and I said, what a noble thing to do. Just Patty's such an ambassador for our sport.
Exactly. And Ryan McKnight, who's also in here, also said he can't wait to see what the future holds. And we've every week the car count's been getting better and better and better, and you see the modifieds, the cars like yours. So it's insane what you guys that have been around for a while can think of and put on the track.
Well, that's the thing. I know a bunch of guys with cars, in the garage that haven't touched them in years, and I'm like, they're starting to open their eyes and saying, what can I build? So I guarantee in the next 5 years, it's going to be more popular. It is popular now. We get so much positive feedback. It's just insane. And I'd like to see 15, 20 cars, and I think it would fly for sure.
Well, we see Richard Atkinson's kind of looking for the build rules. Sean Pierce is also in here, and he says you guys got to go to Lake Dowsett. So maybe that's another guy we can, put the thought into his head.
On it. There's some issues there, but we're kicking at it. I got the bug into Patty's ear, and Dylan knows that we'd like to see us there, and I'm sure we'd be well received there for sure.
And at this point, I think every track would love to have him, once or twice a year. It's just such a cool class. There's so many different things. I mean, I know nothing about the cars that used to race back in the day, right? So just
I
seeing
mean,
these guys out there.
it's good for us old farts that just want to go out and turn left and have a little bit of fun. And that's when we get out of the car, that's what, wasn't that fun? Wasn't that fun? It really doesn't matter who finishes first, second, or third. It's just getting beside somebody and just doing what you used to do and enjoying it and taking the car home in one piece. I mean, it's been pretty good for the races we had. It's, very, very low damage. That's what we want. We're too old to be working all night in the garage trying to fix these things. So
I think Brent Royce, sorry to interrupt, Brandon. I think Brent Roy put it best where he wanted something for Speed Weekend, Stacey, where it was kind of like an intermission show between one race and another race, the big one, the 250. And I think our division, it suits it perfectly where it's competitive, puts on some good racing, and it's short and sweet.
Yeah. And that's, like I say, it's a lot of us old guys, we couldn't race much more than 30, 40 laps. So it to me, it's a good filler, like you say, and it took off way faster and way better than I thought it ever would. And I think, like I say, the more cars, it's just going to be better.
Now, one guy who's in here, Tim, I know you're probably trying to throw it to him. I'll throw it to Denver. Denver, you got to see the okay.
Before we go there, because I've got something on my screen. We mentioned Sean Pierce and we mentioned Old Fart. So I'm going to make Sean feel old here because he would have been racing Sportsman at the time that you, Stacey, were racing Sportsman, I think at Moose.
Yes.
He made a comment earlier, keep this 72 on its wheels.
Yeah, we had a little accident. That was 660. Oh my God. Yeah, we got tangled up. Russell Smith and I were 6th and 7th. We had a good starting. It was only a few laps in, and I was just following Russell, who he was driving Randy's 94 car. And Kevin Moore kind of bumped me the wrong way. I don't know what happened, and we went sideways, and the car flipped, I'll bet you 9 times, a pirouette. It just landed back on its wheels. Wife's crying, the crew chief's all nervous, and I'm like, can we get her back on the track? But she was a rough night. That was our worst wreck. We had 1 year in the Sportsman car in 2000. We didn't even have a flat tire the whole year, and that's just unheard of. And then you have the worst wreck of your life. But I've had people say, you're crazy for driving a race car. And I said, no, you're crazy for passing each other on the 103 3 feet apart going in opposite directions. At least I got a cage, a helmet, and some good belts. So we didn't have a scratch.
There you go. Now I know Denver's chomping at the bit back there. Denver, what do you got?
Well, Stacey, thanks for joining us tonight. I kind of want to start, you had mentioned earlier, the cost of racing and how in some classes it's grown out of control. With the vintage class, for someone looking to get into it, and you said that, obviously much smaller budgets, what can someone expect to spend to get race ready, assuming they have nothing, no safety gear or anything?
For under $20,000, and I mean, that could be 18,000, like to 8,000, like under $20,000, you can have a decent, car, decent engine. I know there's some teams out there on limited budget, and if you go to get a New England modified, you may have to pay a little more, but it's a very cost efficient, and we don't have to buy new tires every week. We just use used tires that we get from the pro stock teams, because now they're practicing and putting 40 laps on them, throwing them away. So, we buy them up, saves them a little money, and we get, cheap tires. The pro stock, tires, I think they're up to 230 or 240 a piece. So, and they have to buy, a couple every week and start off with 4 and have practice tires. We don't have to do that. We burn 5 gallons per race. When we practice that car, run the race, at the end of the day, we fill it up, it takes 5 gallons. So if we don't have to run race fuel because we run a crate motor, so there's a lot of savings, and where you're not running that many laps, you're not smashing the car. So it's definitely, you can get in on a limited budget, especially if you do your own work. I see chassis for sale for $1,000, $1,500 with a rear end and a rack. There's everybody selling used parts, all the big dollar teams. So if you're thrifty, you can get in pretty cheap.
We see, you have the Junior Hanley throwbacks and you have the Jim Holohan throwbacks. Is there any throwback that you would like to see someone build a car for the vintage class that's not already in the class?
Yeah, we kind of, we have one. I'd like to see Frank Frazier throwback, a Junior Kelly throwback, which our body we could do that with. We may do that down the road, but definitely a Frank Frazier throwback. I think it'd be pretty cool.
You kind of intrigued me earlier. You said that Miramichi was one of your worst tracks.
I was
What?
probably nerves. It was the last track we had to race for our championship. For some reason, Gary threw an extra heat race in, and we just barely made it. I just couldn't get around the track. And Jackie Tanner was driving, and Frankie Jr. was wrenching, and those guys were throwing springs at the car. And anyway, they were as bad as us, and I think they ended up winning it just because they were wrenching on it pretty hard. We just wanted to finish so we could get the trophy, and that was the championship for the Snap-on Series. And anyway, we got through it. Shediac, it's a round, flatter track. I like banks. I always have. I love Moosehead, PEI, Antigonish. I think it's just my style. But with this car, I think we can probably get around Shediac pretty decent. I'm assuming anyway. So I'd like to try them just to kind of knock it off the bucket list of trying to master a track that I could never get around.
Well, should the vintage class come to Miramichi, you might be able to lean on your announcer and Dylan Langell for some driving tips around Miramichi.
We only
I can't help there.
But no,
make sure you get your belts in everywhere. That's my recommendation. Make sure all the belts are on your car. You'll be fine.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Stacey, have you ever driven a minivan around a racetrack?
Yeah, actually, I have driven a few things around the racetrack. I probably shouldn't have, but yeah, they push like a freight train.
So there you go, Dylan. We got an excuse for you finally.
Yeah, the damn thing was pushing in the turns, and
it only took us 12 months, but we finally got you an excuse.
there you go.
We'll make last call on social media. There is one comment that I see here saying maybe Laurie Hupp will let me drive his car again. Had a blast at Petty from Dale. There's a name that I haven't heard in a while. It's really good to see that name. Any stories from that one?
Well, oh yeah, because when he got in the car and I said, "You're in trouble now," and I tortured his wife for almost 3 weeks sending her ads for pro stock cars, and anyway, I would love to see him. Tell you another one, Barry Hubley, who ran great. He still has his car in his garage, and he's talking. These are the guys that if they want to go racing, this is the class for them. I mean, it's just so low key. You don't want to race that weekend. You don't have to. There's no points. There's no pressure. And Patty did a really good job, setting this up. And, people say, well, it's a gentleman's league, but it gets pretty racy up there. I'm not going to lie. So I hope to see some of these guys in the future.
A couple more comments rolling in there. Brandon, what do you got?
Jordan Vino just popped back in. He said, "Love seeing you growing up at the track."
I'll tell you, Jordan, his driving style, he reminds me of me. I said that to the wife so many times. I've watched him dominate the Sportsman car, and I said that just him and Brady, the two of them, it was kind of my style, clean, hard racing, get to the front and stay there type of guys. And I love Sportsman, still in my heart. I love watching the race. Every time I go, I just, the first thing, I got to see who's racing, because they don't all race at the same tracks all the time, but it's good when they get together and see how hard Russie Jr., another hard runner. Yeah, there's a lot of talent in the Sportsman class.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's it for now, Tim.
Alexandra has a comment about Chris Ewing nailed it right on the money with the vinyl on Stacey's car, and that he does a lot of race cars. I know he did the car with Russie when he went with Nova. So Chris does a lot of good work on a lot of race cars.
Yeah, he's always done my vinyl since inception. We grew up together, and he's incredible. And he's such a stickler for detail. And I, like I say, on this car, we just had pictures to go by, and he absolutely nailed it. And he always has, and he always will do my vinyl work.
And technically, best looking car nominations presented by Kings County Performance closed Monday, but we haven't done the panel vote yet. So if you are out there and you want to nominate your car for best looking car, head over to timscorner.ca and get that one in here in the next 24 hours or so, and we'll get that on there. I think we're up to 40 or 45 nominations so far. So looking at this sport, the way it's gone the last couple of years, where do you see this sport going in the next 10, 15 years?
I think it's like investments. They peak, they have their lows, their highs. I think we're kind of on our way up a little bit. I worry about the Pro Stock Tour and that, but it's we had one race that there wasn't so many cars, and I know that these tracks got to get along, and the owners of the tracks. And I know COVID messed things up. I think it's only going to go up, and I hope, and I think we all know there's some good news in the Sportsman class. They're trying to get some rules straightened out there and get it on an even keel. I mean, when Gary had the series, we all ran the same rules. There was no, why they changed rules and why some people won't, just, if it isn't broken, don't fix it. I don't know. Get them all the same, and then you don't have to. And I, like Brady says, it's a night in the garage. I get it, but why have the differences? Really, there's no real need for it. And I think the Sportsman Series, you'll see some big races, kind of like a Pro Stock Tour. And we really enjoyed Gary's tour. It was the best of the best. I mean, New Brunswick guys, we were racing, we had Phil Barcos and Gordy and Todd Tufts and myself, and then all the New Brunswick guys. And it was very competitive. Antigonish, we had 44 sportsman cars qualified for one of Gary's races. That's insane. People went home. I hate to see that, but that shows you the cars were there and the rules were right. And I don't know how it got messed up. I mean, weekly shows are okay, but I think the big races are where it's going to end up.
And hopefully with those rules and everything else and everybody working together, I know we have the Maritime Short Track Summit coming up before the end of the month too. So hopefully we can all open the conversation and continue the way that it's going. Angela Johnson says, I love how Stacey includes the young kids in racing in his team. He took our daughter under his wing. How neat's that?
That's Brooke. God love her. She's she, like a lot of young girls, they don't really care about race cars. Well, she is just so into it, and she's part of our team. And I mean, she works on the car. She's learning about the car, and God knows she may get in it someday. But anyway, for now, she's too young. But that's how you learn. That's how we all learn. I learned, hanging around, Clyde Hemmings when I was young. He built a lot of cars, and Charlie Kane, and I was just fortunate enough to grow up next to their shop, and race cars been in my blood, and it always will be.
You mentioned crew and you mentioned sponsors as well, because I know you don't do it alone. Who makes it happen to get the 72 car to the racetrack every week?
Well, like I say, my crew, I mean, Ricky, my wife Smurf, Angie and Sean, Jason and Lacey, and we just had my buddy Scotty, and we just had my old buddy Phil, who hasn't been at a track in many years. Him and his wife Michelle came up to Cape Breton, and he had tears in his eyes because he used to be my crew chief. He had a lot of health issues, a lot over the years, and he's kind of in remission now. And we got him to the track, and it was just the coolest thing to see. Some of the old team kind of back at it, and it's an honor to have them guys to see the smile on their face. Drivers always smile, but like I say, it's all Ricky's fault, this whole thing anyway. So.
I know it's good to see you back on the racetrack. Dylan, any final thoughts before we let Stacey loose for the night?
Stacey, it's just been so fun seeing you and all the boys getting together every time we went out with the Heart of a Champion Hot Rod Classics. And I really do hope that this series grows. And man, we've got so much momentum. There wasn't one bad race, whether it was pack racing the entire time or it was you and the 61 modified getting out and running together. It's just really momentum that we're going to ride into 2022 with, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I'd like to thank you for what you do for us. You're a great voice, a fresh new voice. Tim, you got me through the COVID with this iRacing, which I've never even heard of. And anyway, I started watching it, and I didn't believe I could get into an iRace, and actually people I knew that were doing it. And when we had no NASCAR and the height of COVID, it got me through it. It was something to watch. It was great.
Just as long as you don't take any tips from Brandon Campbell, I think you'll be okay, right, Brandon?
Hey, I want a heat race.
How many laps did you survive last night at the front?
Hey, I led a lap.
You led a lap. That
the
was
throttle
about
stuck.
it.
The throttle
Yeah,
stuck.
yeah.
Well, maybe in the 300 it'll stick a little less.
Yeah.
Stacey, would you give iRacing a crack if you had a computer and all that stuff, if someone let you use it?
But I am so busy with just life and work. Someday, maybe when I slow down a little bit more, I may have to. But yeah, I think it'd be kind of cool.
You got to stop looking for all these car parts in Yarmouth and all these random places.
Listen, that's my life. I'm a car spotter. We crawl through the woods looking at old stuff. We drag stuff out of the woods. I burn finds. I buy and sell muscle cars. I just live and breathe cars. It's a passion, and it's going to be my hobby till they put me in the ground.
When's the TV show coming?
Yeah, we'll leave that to bed, Chad.
Before we let you go, Shannon Riley says, Newfoundland road trip, Stacey, old school. I will bring the good coolers.
Oh, yes, that's a story. I have to tell it before we go. The vodka coolers, they're this big. And then anyway, hers was 30%. It was a kind of a mix. I didn't know. I just drank the whole bottle, and she let me do it. Anyway, that was a bad afternoon. Anyway, thanks, Shannon.
Those are the ones that taste good that go down easy, right?
Yeah. And again, I'd like to thank Lyndon and those guys for doing what they did. I'm glad we got there. Robby Reed and all the Reeds for having us up, for their always have a party afterwards. They're the best people, and they're such a supporter of the sport. And I'm hoping to see Robbie's towing on the back of my trailer and on the car. So anyway.
Yeah, we were going to get out to that party, Dylan, but what happened? You ordered pizza or something at the hotel when we got back?
I ordered pizza.
Well, you wanted to order pizza. There was some sort of story there, right?
I didn't want to order it, but I ate it anyways.
Yeah, right. Okay.
There was enough food at the Reeds to sink a battleship.
Yeah, we were trying to get out there because I know we were out there the year before. Dylan, I know you don't remember anything about the year before.
What do you mean? I didn't have that much moonshine.
There was moonshine. Okay, I don't remember much about the year before. Let's put it that way.
That's more
our
like
our taxi, Cody Quinn didn't show up to pick us up. So were we waiting on our taxi to bring us to the Reeds?
There's also something else he didn't have on standby, but that's a story for a different day.
At least he can wheel a mini stock car. Richard Atkinson said something like those tequila bullets. Yeah, those were not good this year at 660. But regardless, I digress. We have a good time at the racetrack. Stacey, this has been fun catching up. Congratulations on the great season, and we look forward to the next time.
Thanks for having me, and thank you guys for the job you do, and keep up the good work.
That's Stacey Clements, driver of the number 72 Heart of a Champion Hot Rod Classic car. And time to bring some more names up on the screen for our next round for the TCM Most Popular Driver. Denver, what do you got on the screen here? We got some late model names.
Yes, we do, Tim. And the first one that I see, Dylan, how about that? He must have gotten on that list thanks to the fine folks in Cape Breton, Ryan Vanderscott.
Yeah, it was his birthday a couple days ago. I said, "Happy birthday, Mr. Popular Driver in Cape Breton." But dude was pulling double duty all year, which not many guys did. I mean, he was pulling double duty at the track, hopping out of that 25 into the 80, back into the 25, back into the 80. I think he's just sticking with pro stock racing next year, unless someone gives him another Sportsman. But yeah, absolutely, Ryan Vanderscott, 25, 80 car. We've got some other heavy hitters: Chris Reed, Lyndon McDougall, the 31, Courtney Oblinus, Alex Oblinus, Jason Morris down Lake Dowson Motor Speedway way, and 99, Craig Slomwhite, your East Coast International Pro Stock Tour champion. What a freaking comeback he had this year.
Absolutely, he did. So there's 7 more names on the list. We've got 6 more to give you. We will give you those in, let's say, about 15 more minutes or so. We've got a little bit of an open mic segment now. So if you have any questions, comments, tequila bullets you want to reminisce about, drop them in the comments. We got a little bit of time before we roll through to the end of the show here. And speaking of iRacing, we were talking with Stacey with it at the end of the interview there, but TCM 300 coming up next week. It's going to be a busy week for us here on between TCM and Verdane TV. I know Paul's got some iRacing coming up later on with the Loose Lugs playoffs, but we'll talk a little TCM 300 to start off because our season opener was last night. And Brandon, as much as we joke about it, 50 cars showed up last night for our season opener as our, I don't want to say a soft launch, but to get used to the admin controls and drivers getting used to each other again. And I think, Brandon, for the most part, everybody played nice.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things where what do you do in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia and everywhere else in the Maritimes in the winter, right? So speaking for myself, and I know you mentioned it a few times last night, I had the time of my life.
Yeah, and I didn't think, I will be honest with everybody, I thought we might get 30 cars last night. We're not going to get a whole lot of cars. It's an impromptu race 2 days before we're announcing the show. We had 50 server slots and we ended up filling it at the end of the night. So 5 heats, couple of consies. We had one driver get into somebody what looked to be intentional in an LCQ, but everybody else was pretty much calm, cool, and collected. Congratulations to Dustin Mombercat on the win as well. And I know Tyler Hallahan is with us, and he said hope to make some iRacing events this offseason. We're still finalizing the rest of the schedule beyond the 300, but I know the Jim Hallahan 333 is back on our schedule. I know me and Paul have a date picked out in January for that. We got a mid-season championship. The showcase is coming back in April. But this 300 coming up, we are at 48, I believe, entries. There's a $600 purse, $200 to win the event. And we've got some big names. Obviously, Brandon Campbell is entered. So for those fans that are out there, Ryan, yeah, exactly. Something like that. He half lap wonder or lap and a half wonder, whatever it is. Ryan Kuhn signed up today. So there's another big name. Obviously, we're waiting on a couple of others. Like Alex McCollum was there last night. Ryan Matthews was there last night. I know there's another, Sarah's got an event that week 2. So hopefully we can kind of balance that a little bit for some of those that are trying to do both. But there's some decent names out there. And obviously your Mike Alexanders, your Matthew Barkhouses, those guys that are there every single week. Jason Goss signed up today. Great third place run last night. Those local guys and the talent from outside. Dylan in Denver, I know you follow it a little bit. It's almost goes back to that Cat 250 field that we had in the mid 2000s here in Halifax, where it's almost a battle of the border because the American guys come up and compete against our Canadian guys, and it's a show.
And it's super cool. Like, I love it when like Brett Suggs and all these Americans come in and contend, and even to put it where a Bandolero driver can tussle with a pro stock driver, can tussle with a street stock driver, can tussle with a demo driver, mini stock, it doesn't matter. It's almost equal playing ground with this iRacing. And to Stacey's credit, like iRacing before COVID, I had no interest in. I would love to do it, but not really interested in watching or announcing it. But, it got us through the bad part of COVID in 2020 and a little bit earlier in 2021. And, I'm looking forward to helping out a couple of these races here again and, kind of keep the announcer chops all fluid and everything. And that 300 is going to be a fun race. And, Dustin, we've talked about Dustin Mumbercat before getting the big win last night. And man, you never know with these races of who's going to come out on top. It could be someone we don't really expect. We got some of these top iRacers like Brett Suggs, who's got that, the VR headset where he can look around and see the different views. And then we got guys who almost had the Timmy Hill setup where it's just a simple Logitech wheel and one screen, and they could potentially win.
And I think when we look at it, it's the cars are virtual, the competition is real. And if you don't believe us, strap into for yourself and get into one of these races, because there was some heat last night, I believe, in a couple of those wrecks. But for the most part, everybody minded their P's and Q's. Jordan Bino said, iRacing, figure 8 racing. We've done that before. Paul can attest this. I'll bring Paul on, give him a moment to hit the mic switch. But our first race that we did with Vidane and TCM was a figure 8 race, wasn't it?
That it was, and we found out just how colorful Tim Terry's language can be when he's doing an in-car commentary at a figure 8 track with a jump. Very exciting. You can actually check it out over on the Vidane TV Facebook page. And I honestly hate the winter months. I've always hated it. I've been going to the racetrack for about 10 years now, and the winter months were always kind of a slow time. But with TCM and kind of bringing up Vidane TV last year throughout the pandemic and kind of keeping it rolling here, it's been pretty exciting heading into the winter months. We get a lot of stuff going on with Tim's Corner Motorsports, East Coast Winter League. We got 85 Tour Modified drivers that are getting ready to race on Sunday night, or getting ready to qualify to race with Dylan Kopech and company. A lot of local Northeast racers jumping in on that. We've got the New England, Pennsylvania iRacing group. A lot of guys from up at Oxford. Brent Roy, the lone Canadian in the field, races the number 26 car. So it's always kind of cool to see everybody jump on the computer, so to speak, and do a little bit of racing, kind of keep everybody's wits about them, too.
Yeah, exactly. And I know Neps is on tomorrow night. So if you're watching, the Corey Casagrandes, the John Peters, the Zane Farrell, Jason Ricker from Maine, some names that you'll recognize if you are race fans in the Northeast. racing that one. And of course, we mentioned Brent Roy as well. And Brent had told me there's another big name in pro stocks that is going to be eventually making his next debut. It might not be until the Oxford 250 that they run in January, but there's another name that 660 fans and East Coast International Pro Stock Tour fans will be accustomed to as well, that races in our deal whenever we do it. So,
and if it's something you want to get into, now's really the time to do it. iRacing's actually offering a Black Friday sale, 50% off now through December 4th. You get some basic tracks, basic cars, all that good stuff, additional content, obviously additional money, but it'd be a cool way to kind of get yourself started, get yourself set up with a steering wheel, maybe a screen, 2 screens, a VR headset, whatever you got. But now's the time. iRacing.com, 50% off through December 4th.
And back to the Jordan Bino figure 8 deal. We did the figure 8 last year. It wasn't a broadcasted race, I don't think, but we only had 10 or 12 cars for it. That Rallycross, and I think there was something else that we tried. Trying to do some different things and trying to bring some of these drivers out of their comfort zone of racing a super late or a street stock or a legend car on a short track, trying to bring them out to different comfort zones, and didn't really get over car count wise. So if we can get some drivers interested in the figure 8 again, we would do it. Now, the other side, which would be Brandon Campbell's meat and potatoes, is the Smash Potatoes race, and that is coming back in December. We haven't picked a track and haven't picked a venue yet. But Brandon, I know you've got something you want to do with the iRacing deal at some point. So what combination do you want to do?
Which combination are we talking about? The one that we talked about today?
The one that you hold the world record for. I didn't know Brandon Campbell had a world record, folks, but apparently he has a world record in single car qualifying, is it?
No, race qualifying and practice. But anyways, I would love to do Legends at Southern National.
And it's got to be an open setup, you said?
Yeah, because that's the only way to do it. The iRacing setups are cool, but they're just made for people that like the new people, so they don't really give you the best speed. But can I add on this iRacing thing for a second?
Sure, you can.
I was thinking when you were in Ontario, and I was like, Tim's meeting one of my best friends from iRacing right now. Like, this is friggin' cool. Like, I could probably fly to most states right now and I would have somewhere to stay if I wanted. Like, the amount of friends you meet, like, whether I'm gonna admit it or not, like, I've met Paul through iRacing, he seems okay, whatever. I could go hang out with him at Stafford if I wanted, or I could go to Langley or Dominion and hang out with Ryan, or like the amount of friends you actually made. I think Denver, you made a friend on NASCAR 2003, wasn't it, that I still talk to?
Yes.
So it's just insane how the virtual world meets the real world.
Yeah, and just to clean up a couple of questions on social, Richard Atkinson said, can you watch these races on YouTube, or what venue do you watch these races on? We'll have them on YouTube. We'll have them on Facebook as well. And with the 300 coming up next week, so for those that aren't used to the 300, we kind of scaled back the format from what we did last year. So we have 2 qualifying nights on Monday and Tuesday. Drivers sign up, they pay their entry fee. This is the only race we usually do on a year that has an entry fee. So they sign up, do that. They run in and do a qualifying night, top 10 from each qualifying night. And they do heats and a feature, move on to Friday night for the 300, the big show. There's one more last chance qualifier on Thursday, which will send, I think we're going to take 4 or 5. I don't have the format right in front of me. And then they move into the big show on Friday. The Monday, the Tuesday, and the Friday will be on Verdane TV. So you can watch that through our Facebook page and what have you, and get on there and just have some fun with it. And it brings the fans, as Dylan said, a little bit of enjoyment over that off season to get through. But we usually do about 20 to 25 races a season. Me and Brandon, and I think Paige talked about it last night, about trying to tie everything in and maybe do a point series with a couple of drop races in there to keep those guys that want to race for points and want to have a championship to shoot for. They can. For the other guys that just want to show up and have some fun, they can do that as well. So I know Brandon is addressing questions on social about what is it, cost there?
Yeah, Ryan was just kind of wondering what you need and how much it would cost, but really you get yourself a decent computer. You can find old wheels on Kijiji and stuff that'll get you by. And then he said he finally got good internet, so he's good to go, I think.
Yeah, he's got Starlink, so he should be good to go. I see Jordan Vino's.
The tire bill's cheaper on iRacing.
Absolutely it is,
and
especially
there's no shortage.
Well, no, we did do the one set last night though. So that's the other thing you can do with iRacing is you can try to do those different real world realistic things. So we had a tire limit. So whatever you started the 100 lap race on last night, you finished. There was no extra sets of tires in the pit. So it kind of makes that a little bit cool as well. Jordan Bino said, I would have to get mine back up and running. At least I wouldn't feel as bad as if I hit somebody. And with the smashed potatoes race, that is the point. It's an enduro race that we do for either, 200 laps or 60 minutes or whatever the case may be. You hit whatever, you first person across the line wins. But we have drivers from all different skill levels. So you can head to timscorner.ca/iRacing or hit me or Brandon or somebody up and get involved in it. There's 200 and something members on the site, and we get different drivers from all over Atlantic Canada and beyond, and a couple of friends that join us in as well. So it's great fun. So if you're looking for something to do this winter, we're just getting the ball rolling on 2021-22. So let's transition though, and let's go from the real racing. Before you put that on the screen, Paul, let's go to the fantasy points, because I know Denver has wanted to brag on this for a while. So let's throw that up there. And
I thought he was asleep till you said fantasy points and his head just popped.
Yeah. Okay. Denver, congratulations.
Thank you. That's a great honor. A great way to back up the staff race win in 2020 with the fantasy points championship in 2021.
You're kidding me.
Well, there was no staff race
competition.
There was no staff race this year either. So there was more competition here than there was in the staff race, I think.
That's arguable.
There was none anywhere. One, I wasn't in the staff race. Two, I came with like 3 weeks left in it.
Dude, you had the option to get in the staff race, and you totally
There we go.
I didn't want to embarrass you. I had more fun trying to throw pumpkins at you.
Yeah. All right.
I missed, but Travis connected.
I was going to say Travis Conroy connected, I think, at one point.
That was actually in the drivers' meeting this year, was if you throw the pumpkins, don't hit the window.
Oh, boy. Yeah, so Meredith was second. I ended up coming third. Dylan was fourth. By the way, Brandon didn't get his picks in for the 4 races that we did in Sydney. And we didn't do a fan selection either. So there was that too. And Paul, I see where Paul is going on this, but by the way, congratulations, Denver. We will get you your steak dinner or whatever we owe you at some point.
Yeah, there was never a defined prize for whatever this was.
There was no prize.
Yeah, there's no prize.
We were going to get a trophy, but we might give you like we'll figure something out.
McDonald's gift card.
Doug Matchett is already in here about the staff race. So
is he?
You poked the bear.
Oh, that's good.
You poked the bear. And Paul has found footage from the first race that we ever did with Vidane with the TCM deal. This was the figure 8 race. It's a good thing we don't have audio, because there was some colorful language. That's Matthew Barkhouse, by the way, that won that race. We've come a long way, by the way, too, Paul, with graphics and what have you. Look, Brandon Campbell was in that race and I'm beating him. Look at that.
Okay, hold up.
Okay,
Can we show the smashed potatoes last lap from last year then?
No, we can't, because you weren't even in that race.
The one that I won last year.
The Charlotte, you didn't win.
No, but the South Boston I did. That was the inaugural smashed potatoes.
Yes, it was. But you still did. Oh, I think that was me. I'm looking back at the delay, but I think that was me that hit Matthew Barkhouse.
Weapon.
We did good in that race. We finished 12th, but we did good in that race. But if there's anybody that's interested, wants to do some more figure 8 racing, we can. Chris Ewing sent me a text message and said, Legends at Southern National Open setup would be awesome.
Told you like 15 times. You said, Super's at 5 flags. Brent Roy, Super at 5 flags. Caleb Ricker. Caleb didn't even show up.
Yeah. So we'll figure. Maybe that's what we do after the 300, because I know there was a couple of suggestions about a road race. But maybe we do that. We'll have to get a date that Paul can broadcast it, so we can make sure that Brandon gets his only big win on an oval that he's had. He did win the All-Star qualifier 2 years ago.
I did. There's proof of that also, actually.
Yeah, there is, but you technically didn't win with the whole field. And by the way, Doug Matchett says, Tim, me, and Denver, staff race, figure 8, no holds barred. So apparently, Brandon, you are not a part of that either.
That's okay. Did Doug even finish second in that?
Doug was last.
Yeah, and Barry and beat him. So
how do you finish behind Eldon Campbell?
I don't know.
I don't.
That was a career run for the guy. I think he was 3rd place.
Yeah, like that was big.
He raced for 10 years and it was his first podium in the staff race.
Yeah. So are we getting the match cars back next year, Denver? Because I know one of the match cars is done. So is that in the cards for next year?
Absolutely. Why wouldn't it be? That's the grudge race will return.
Okay.
I'm told. We got a full winter to figure that out.
Yep. So maybe you build a couple of other grudge cars and you throw 3 or 4 in there. Maybe it becomes, I don't want to say a whole division because I don't want to put any words and berries out there, any work and berries plate, but maybe it becomes a 3 or 4.
That would be wild. That would be wild.
Yeah, maybe it's something we look at for that 2022 season. I see we're coming up on the top of the hour, so let's give the fans the final 6 names for the TCM Most Popular Driver Award. And there are some names here that may surprise. And oh, look, Brandon, your buddy Ricky Miller is on here.
Of course he is. I voted for him 15 times. Take him away.
Emma Farrell is here. Cody Byrne. There's another one of your friends you mentioned earlier.
Oh, you want to know a story about Cody Byrne?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
He's going to be at the Snowball Derby.
Is he?
He was telling me earlier. That's cool.
Yep. So he's not driving though.
Actually, another story.
Okay.
Cody messaged me earlier and goes, "Can you be my crew chief on iRacing?" I said, "I don't know what that means, but okay." And he apparently has all the setup and stuff, but he said, "You can't race Hondas." And I said, "Absolutely not." But Cody will be on iRacing.
I know he's got an account, so I'm looking forward to seeing him on there. But he's obviously got some fans behind him. He's in here for the Most Popular Driver Award. Jeff Bridges, Wild Willie Hurlbert is in here as well, trying to make a second run at this one. He had a run a couple of years ago at the Most Popular Driver Award. And Tyler Hallahan. I know Tyler's watching and he's pretty excited. So
can I ask a question?
Absolutely, you can.
Where's Brandon Campbell on that list? Because I thought he was going to win it.
Yeah, Brandon, how'd that go?
How far was I? Was I close?
You were a couple of votes out. So, by the way, this is the first year I think in the last 3 or 4 years where we haven't had a tie for 25th. Because we've usually had like a 3 or 4 way tie for like 24th. This is the first time we've had 25 clear cut drivers, and by clear cut, 26 was 1 vote away. And I guess we can say who it was. It was BJ Gillespie. That was 1 vote behind. And then there were 3 or 4 that were 1 vote behind him. And then it was kind of like the rest of the field in behind. So I think you were maybe 5 or 6 votes off.
You're kidding. I went to 5 different houses with 5 different emails.
Well, you should have thought of that before.
Or just one on Tinder or something.
Omegle?
Doug Matches said, "I thought you had to be a driver." So I guess starting the car, it doesn't make you a driver?
Hang on.
I don't even know why I show up.
How would that Tinder profile work? Hey, my name's Brandon. I'm looking for votes for Most Popular Driver. Hit me
Here,
up.
I'll send you a message later and I'll tell you exactly how it works.
I'm not on Tinder anymore. I got banned.
You don't need Tinder.
We're not going down that road. Is Amber
Pause the phone. Pause the. Wait, you got banned from Tinder.
They wouldn't even tell me why. I don't know what happened.
Too good looking. Sexiest man of the year over here, Paul Rudd. Who's that?
Ice cream.
Ice cream.
What do they call you at work, Paul?
Oh, they call me ice cream in Spanish.
You see him after hours.
I don't really want to know why, but see, we have too much fun on this show. It's great to be back, by the way, after 2 weeks. So that's the final batch. If you did not see your name, or maybe you showed up late and you want to go back and take a look at the names, you can do so beginning tomorrow. Voting will resume tomorrow on round number 2. And round number 2 also includes the fan favorite track and series awards, which are always popular between the racetrack promoters. And then on round number 3, we're going to have the Kings County Performance Rookie of the Year, the Breakout Performer of the Year, and a couple of other things as well. The Kings County Performance Best Looking Car Award, those have to go to the panelists probably on Friday. So if you haven't got your car in, I know the nominations were supposed to technically end on Monday, but you still got a couple of moments, couple of hours to get your nomination in. If you haven't already, we'll sneak it in under the deadline. And we usually have the fan favorite photo and a couple of other things as well. So we'll get to that in round number 3. There's still a couple of weeks to go before that, but voting begins tomorrow sometime whenever we get the ballot up for the most popular driver and the fan favorite short track and series awards and events and all that fun stuff. So we're getting to the top of the hour. Paul has loose lugs coming up. First race of the playoffs, did I see?
First race of the playoffs, 150 laps here at Martinsville with a special guest in the booth, Brandon Campbell. Brandon, you're coming down to the track, right?
We'll
So
see
by
at
the way,
track.
this race went from 110 laps to 150 laps because we started the night saying it was 110, and now it's 100. How did that work?
Paul's
I
a liar, I'm
really,
not showing up.
really need to hire a secretary. We got a lot of stuff going on here if it ain't TV.
We will get right on that. And obviously TCM 300 coming up next week as well. We got a busy weekend. I know Oyster Bed has their banquet. I know Miramichi's got an event scheduled. I know with the circuit breaker, that might throw a little bit of a wrench into it, but keep tabs on Speedway Miramichi's Facebook page for all that information as well. We got some other busy events coming up, and of course the TCM 300. Starting on Monday, next week, Monday and Tuesday are the qualifying nights presented by RKM Setup Shop. Thursday is not broadcast, but it is the last chance qualifier for those that don't make it in through their qualifying night. And then on Friday, it is the TCM 300. No, by the way, in the middle, Wednesday is TCM Live. So we've got a busy week coming up next week. So I know Dylan's probably going to be around for an iRace or two. He's going to be here for TCM Live. At Denver, you're more than welcome to watch some iRacing. I know Meredith's around somewhere. So do you have to get her permission?
No, not next week because she'll be in Halifax and I'll.
The lights. She's got it set up so the lights just flick when she goes on her.
She can come over here and she can announce the race
There.
while I
Dylan's
There, how's
invited
that
you to
sound?
go to Dylan's place to watch and announce the iRacing.
And
she
save
can
his guinea
announce
pigs.
the racing.
And
She
save
said
the
that's
guinea
Take
pigs.
okay.
care of the guinea pigs.
Yeah,
She
you
doesn't want
can
to-
take care of the guinea pigs.
One's name is Ice Cream.
Yeah, they're half
Yeah, I get
dead
two
now.
of them.
Wow.
I'll send her a photo.
Oh,
The
my.
dead guinea pig, Dylan?
And this has gone off the rails.
It's
No,
probably a little bit scared.
The mics are clear, right?
They are about to be. Want to thank all the crew that puts together all the TCM TV broadcasts throughout the season. Of course, everybody that does everything here, and of course our partners that are on the screen. And we got a couple more that are coming up as well. And want to thank CB Warren's Auto Care as well. I know Chris stepped up here in the last couple of weeks to help us as well. So all those names on the screen definitely help us do what we do on a weekly basis on the TV side. So that was fun. Big thanks to Stacey Clements and Brady Kramer. That interview with Stacey was great. Great to catch up with him. And looking forward to next week when we do it all again for episode 38. So on behalf of Paul Strickland Jr., Brandon Campbell, Denver Matchett, Dylan Langell, Meredith Hayes in the background. Lights are about to flicker. My name is Tim Terry. We will see you Monday night when we say let's go racing for the TCM 300. Until then, Brandon.
Keep the hammer down. We'll see you at the track.